Cell phones. Can we go back to a time without them? Do y'all think we could do that? I don't think it's no turning back. But which side of the argument do you fall on? Do you feel like they're a tremendous help and it's worth the downside? Or do you feel like they're shrinking our brains? They're bad for us. They're making us antisocial. They're just creating a whole list of problems. Which side of the argument do you fall on? And let's check out some of these videos.
All of man's problems arise because he cannot sit by himself in a room for 30 minutes alone. And when the iPhone came along, boredom was dead. And I thought it was great. And when I was a kid, I used to try and overclock my brain. Be like, how many thoughts can I think at once? The answer is only one, but I would try to think multiple thoughts at once. And I was proud of that. I was proud that my brain was always running. This engine was always moving. And it's a disease. It's actually the road to misery. And now that I'm older, I realize you actually want to, again, rest your mind. You want to learn how to settle into your mind. And now I look forward to solitary confinement. You leave me alone for a day, it'll be like the happiest day I've had in a while. And that is a superpower that I think everybody can attain.
Get off your cell phones. Guys, using your cell phones too much is not good for your health. When you use a cell phone, whether it's to text, to check a text, to answer a phone, or especially social media, what happens in your brain is you release dopamine. Dopamine is a short-term feel-good chemical. It's like getting high. The problem is you crash immediately and your brain wants more. So the more that your brain wants it, the more you want to check your phone, and that becomes an addiction. Long-term, it can affect serotonin levels. Serotonin is your feel-good chemical long-term. It's your happy chemical. It's your antidepressant. But if you get enough dopamine, it starts to suppress the serotonin, and now we start having memory problems. We can have depression. We can have all kinds of neurological issues going on. So limit the cell phones. It's also been shown in studies that the electromagnetic radiation can also affect the chemicals of the brain. So that's another bad thing that cell phones do. So do yourself a favor, limit time on your cell phone.
You know who needs to hear that? The people who designed the cell phone. That's who needs to hear that. They're making the phone so we never put it down. They're doing that. They're creating this device to make sure that we never put it down. Like, people have their notifications on. If they hear it, they need to check, pull up and check it. That pulls you to your phone. Like, being able to do work from your phone draws you to your phone. Like, it's so, games draw you to your phone. Music draws you to your phone. Social media apps, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube now being on your phone draws you to your phone. And the fact that you can have all of this stuff readily available as soon as you swipe up or put your face in front of it is going to constantly draw you to your phone. So I think the people that are making these need to sit down with, I guess this person could be a doctor. I don't know. He got scrubs on, but sit down and talk to them and try to find out some kind of way to help balance this stuff. I know it ultimately falls on us, but this thing being able to do all of it can do ain't helping.
Hi, it's Dr. Nance, and I'm talking about the 5 ways that the new iPhone is killing your hands. So the first is that these new phones are really heavy. When you hold it up, you have to keep your wrist in neutral, and that means the muscles in your forearm can get sore. So every now and again, just rest the phone on your lap or on, a stand so that you can give your forearm muscles a break. The next is where the phone actually sits in your palm. A lot of times we hold it down here and it's sitting pressed directly on the median nerve. That's the same nerve that's involved in carpal tunnel syndrome and can give you pain, numbness, and tingling in your hands. So try holding the phone out by your fingertips or resting it in your lap or on a stand from time to time. The next 2 problems are with actually typing and texting. These phones are really large, and so we have to have greater movements of our thumbs in order to type and text. That leads to a condition called deep vein tenosynovitis, which is a painful condition on the outside of the wrist. Also, just, texting constantly, you're doing a lot of flexion of the thumb. That leads to trigger thumb, which is a synovitis right here at the A1 pulley of the thumb. So again, take some breaks from when you're doing those power texting sessions. And the last thing is actually not a hand problem, but more of a neck problem. When you're spending too much time bending and craning the neck to look down, you have to break that time up. Do some exercises with your neck, sit up straight, roll your shoulders back, and remember, like everything, it's good in moderation.
More than two-thirds of Americans have cell phones, but there's long been a question: does heavy cell phone use hurt human health?
Some are calling the study a landmark event in our understanding of how cell phones affect the human body. 47 participants had cell phones placed on their left and right ears. One cell phone was activated but muted, the other was turned off. After 50 minutes, the researchers took PET scans of the subjects. Look at what they found. The image on the left shows what happened when the cell phone was turned on. The most active areas are in red. Notice the upper right part of the brain. That's the area closest to the antenna. Compare that with this image on the right of the same subject when they had their cell phones turned off.
I confess that after the findings, I changed my behavior. So now I use it on a speakerphone. I just put a wire on my earphone.
Do you want to know why your spouse is addicted to their phone, or maybe it's you in your marriage? The dopamine release. Using our phones, especially social media apps or messaging apps, can trigger that release of dopamine in our brains. It's that neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward, and it can create feelings of pleasure and satisfaction when we pick up our phones. This is the feeling that we first had when we first fell in love, that passion and exciting feeling. Same thing. So phones and social media apps can provide that sense of social connection and validation some people feel like they might not be getting in the marriage. It could be social acceptance when they use their phones, which make it difficult for people to put down. Also, boredom. Phones can be a source of entertainment and distraction when people are bored or have nothing to do. Phone addiction can also be a cover-up from having depression. So, over time, using our phones could become a habit or automatic behavior, making it very difficult to break that cycle of constantly picking up and checking our phones. Remember, it is possible to break that addiction. In my next video, I'm going to share tips on how to do that and how not to let it destroy the intimacy in your marriage.
Hold on, before we get to that video, that's so interesting, because now we bring in the relationship side and aspects and problems that cell phones are causing. A lot of people won't admit it, but cell phones are part of the problem in relationships. There's other problems too, and you probably don't get to the part about the cell phone unless you're using it to cheat. I mean, then it's at the top of the list and it's being addressed. But if you're having communication issues with spouse, loved one, whomever, it's probably related to or somewhat, the cell phone is somewhat the cause of that problem. You can't put it down. You can't put it down. You can't sleep at night. What you do? You get your cell phone, you get on it. I do it too. I'm guilty. Everything I'm telling you, you get your cell phone at night, you get on there. Can't sleep. They get boyfriend, girlfriend, wife, husband getting on your nerves, pull up your cell phone. They talking to you, you don't want to listen, get on your cell phone and act like you listening, but you're really in your cell phone while they're just talking. And every now and then you chime in and go, for real? Wow. And you ain't heard a word that person just said. Like, it's causing so many problems. So many problems.
As a society, we rely on technology far too often to do what our brains should actually be doing. I'll give you an example, and this is important to understand because our mental health and the health of our brain relies on how often we use our brain. If we don't use it and we rely solely on technology, then our mental health and the health of our brain simply doesn't work as well. So to give you an example, I know people that use Google Maps every time they're going out, right? They're going somewhere like the grocery store or their job. They've been there a million times. Like, what do you need Google Maps for? And the problem with this is that it creates a dependency on technology, and their brain becomes weaker over time. They become sort of robotic and more automated with their driving, with their movement patterns, whatever it may be. So you want to detach from technology to the best of your ability, and also understand that even technology doesn't have it all right. I've had autocorrect, which I now call auto-assume the word I'm going to say, and it's completely off. So do your best to detach from technology and get outside and get in nature, even if it's cold outside, like my hands.
A bunch of people are upset right now because they're claiming that the new iPhone 15 is literally burning in their hands while they're using them. There's a bunch of people reporting on this right now all over social media, but one specific person actually tested the temperature with the device and it was reading 116 degrees Fahrenheit. This issue is appearing to affect all 4 of the new iPhone 15 models, with some users reporting that their phones even get too hot to hold with a case on it. Here's a close-up picture of the thermal device picking up the 116 degrees. These are a few of the comments people have made so far. Somebody said, my iPhone 15 Pro Max is almost too hot to touch while fast charging right now. I thought people were exaggerating, but no, this isn't great. Interestingly, if I'm holding it, the left side rail and a little of the back on the left side is what's the hottest by far, lines up perfectly with the logic board. That was just one person's experience with this, but other people are reporting the same exact issue while it's not charging. It should be noted that it's not unusual for iPhones to get hot during the first 24 hours or so after setup. I've never heard of that before, especially when doing setup from a previous phone or from an iCloud backup. Again, never heard of that. I've never personally had any issues with my phones ever getting hot, but I'm currently on the iPhone 14. Let me know if you guys experience this, but make sure you hit the plus and come back because I'll post.
If you're in the habit of falling asleep with your phone beside your head, cut it out now. Here's why. New research shows that about 13% of the world's population may be hypersensitive to electromagnetic fields, also known as EMFs. Our smartphones emit small amounts of EMFs. For the most part, they aren't harmful. That is, unless you keep your phone near your head for an extended period of time. A recent study found that sleeping with your phone near your head or under your pillow is associated with poor quality sleep. It's just one more reason not to use your phone around bedtime.
How too much technology can ruin your mental health. 9 out of 10 people use their phone within 1 hour of going to bed. Blue light from your phone can disrupt your circadian rhythm, making it harder to sleep. Less sleep equals a less effective brain. Your brain can't recover at night and remove the toxins, so you'll feel slower, moodier, and find it hard to focus the next day.
You really need to try living life, and I mean hours, without looking at a screen. So I decided today that I wasn't going to spend a lot of time on my phone. Usually I pick up my phone pretty much as soon as I wake up. I'm not necessarily scrolling through social media right when I wake up, but I usually will pick it up, look at the weather, do all those things. But instead, I decided that I was actually not going to look at my phone today for as little as possible. So during the day when I would get really bored and I'd feel like, oh my gosh, I really want to do something, and I would want to reach for my phone was nowhere near me, so I had to figure out other things to do. During this little experiment of mine, I realized how much I try and distract myself from just living in the present moment. And I'm not the only one, so do you ever think about what people did before we had all of this technology at our fingertips? I personally find myself thinking about this a lot. And one of the things that I've come up with is that because we're not so bored anymore, we don't go to try and solve our own problems. Instead, we go on our phones, we distract ourselves, we might complain online about the fact that this thing is a problem, that thing is a problem, but if everybody's complaining and no one's solving the problem, well, then the problems persist. Obviously, there are people out here who are solving problems, but I really do think that so many more people would solve problems if they weren't distracted by social media, entertainment in general. It's so easy to literally zone out on a phone, on a computer, a TV for hours. And then you look up and you're like, I'm still kind of depressed. And the reason for that is because you still have the problem. You've just wasted a ton of time. Another thing I found with today is that I found myself gravitating towards doing things like going outside. Eating was a big one too. Hanging out with people I don't necessarily usually hang out with, meaning my family. And I think the most important one of them all is that I was just thinking so much about my life and where I'm going. And that's the funny part about all these distractions that we have at our fingertips. They distract us from actually thinking about our lives and solving the issues that we have within our lives. So I think I'm definitely going to be doing this at least once a week where I just don't really look at my phone at all. But more importantly, I think it's important to have a few hours a day where you just literally don't distract yourself with any of these devices. You never know the problems you'll solve.
That's funny. Now I'm gonna go back to what she said about waking up and grabbing your phone. I am an addict when it comes to that. I'm an addict. That's the best way I could see to put it. I'm an addict. When I wake up, I'm itching to see what the stock market did overnight. So the first thing I do is grab my phone and pull up the stock market and see how we traded overnight. That kind of prepares me for the opening, right? So I'm the world's worst at that. Like, my eyes are barely open and I'm reaching for it. Sometimes they're not even open and I'm reaching for it because I know where I last had it at. Terrible at this. So I know. Now, she also talked about it being a distraction, and she made some pretty good points. You know, when we were younger, you were bored, so you had to either address a problem. Maybe you got into it with a friend of yours, and y'all aren't playing together today. You know, no basketball, no sports, no nothing. Now you're in the house, you're bored. So you probably ended up more than likely going to hash it out with that friend, fixing that so y'all can go back and playing ball, riding your bikes, or doing whatever. These days, no need. You got your video game, TV, unlimited Netflix shows and series. Oh, you get hooked on a series. What's y'all new series that y'all hooked on right now? Probably hooked on a series. And you start it, you gotta finish it. You know what I mean? So it's so many different things to do to distract you. You had that. So it's gonna be hard for us to go. Personally, I don't think we can. I think we're so far gone and removed from that time back then that it's no turning back. And if we're distracted like this with the cell phones, what do y'all think virtual reality is gonna do to us? Metaverse, different things like that. What do y'all think that's gonna do to us? We're doomed. Straight up.
Your phone could be the reason why you're getting sick. Now hear me out for a second. Think about where you've been today. You've gone out, you touched handles, opened up doors, picking up items, shaking people's hands. Yeah, you might have washed your hands, but you've touched your phone in between. So you're always touching your phone, and then all of a sudden you decide, okay, my hands are clean. You start rubbing your eyes and your face from your phone. Every night, get a little bit of alcohol. Spray it on a napkin, paper towel, wipe off your phone, make sure it's germ-free. It will keep you healthy.
I decided to do some research online, and I decided to buy an electromagnetic field detector for like $30 on Amazon. And when I got it, I tested my phone, and whenever I put the sensor near my phone, it would start lighting up and beeping, and the screen would say warning. And I tried this on my family's iPhones, and it didn't have the same effect. So this next clip is of me testing 3 different phones, the Samsung that I'm using right now, my old iPhone XR, and then the iPhone 12. When I saw this, I immediately went out and got a new phone. This time I got a Samsung, and I took my iPhone and put it back in its box and put it in the back of my closet, and over the next few days I started feeling so much better. I was finally able to sit for more than an hour without having a lot of pain, and a few days after I had switched phones, I actually had my cardiologist appointment, and my cardiologist had put me on a 3-day heart monitor, and I saw the results, and it mentioned I had 2 different types of heart block, which is weird because I've never really had any sort of heart issues before. I've actually never had any kind of health issues at all. Usually I was pretty healthy before this. Since switching phones though, I've been feeling so much better. I have been having some joint pain, which kind of makes it hard to walk, but I did kind of look it up, and it mentioned that this kind of radiation can have a long-term side effect of joint pain, so...
Hey guys, Dr. Matt Singer here. I just want to show you something really interesting. So, take a look at her strength. Nice and strong. see the cell phone? I'm gonna just put it close to her, and you see how your arm goes down? Now I want to show you something. All right, just hold this here for me. Ready, hold real strong.
No, seriously, do it again. Take it off. Let me try. Do it without the cell phone. Holy.
So what's happening is the cell phone, the EMF waves is literally, it's affecting your strength. Because the EMF waves literally start to affect the cells in the brain. So,
wow.
Yeah. So something like this, like a Q-link, will actually help protect you from the EMF waves. So I hope that helps, guys. Dr. Matt Singer, have a great day.
Being honest here, if you can't handle 4 hours a day on your phone, then you're just not cut out for this game. You're not cut out for this kind of life. Because I'm putting in 4 hours on my phone on my days off. You know, on my cheat days, I still get at least 4 hours phone time minimum. Like, this is just the kind of dedication you need if you want to be good at going on your phone. You can't give up this easy. I put in so many hours into this that when I have a kid, through Lamarckian evolution, they will be genetically adapted to being able to maximize screen time. 4 hours a day.
Are you looking for a sign that you've been using your phone too much? Do the following. Make a fist right now with your thumb wrapped around by your fingers, then bend it downwards sharply. Does that hurt a lot? If so, you might have something called the Quervain's tenosynovitis, which could be a sign that you're using your phone too much. Comment and let me know if you feel a lot of pain.
How you know if your phone is tapped? It'll pop up forwarding on all calls. If your phone is not tapped, it'll pop up as this, disabled.
I'm trying to get this message out, so please share this with everyone. A lot of parents are not going to be surprised by this. The data is coming in and showing that it is the access to cell phones and social media that is behind this, an increase in mental health problems in children. Basically, you should not have your kids on cell phones looking at social media before the age of 18. Try to limit it as much as possible. This is the hard thing because every single parent does this, myself included. I have children. My children are on cell phones too. I get it. It's like a babysitter. It's really, really nice to get a break. So by sharing this, I'm not trying to cast judgment on anyone. And if you're sharing this, you're not trying to cast judgment on anyone. This is just to share information.
Being on your phone past 11 p.m. makes you depressed. Dr. Andrew Huberman talked about this back in 2022, where essentially he explained how any light exposure, regardless of the wavelength, between the hours of 11 p.m. and 4 a.m. actually mess up your dopamine system. To simplify, any light, regardless if it's blue light, warm light, whatever, it signals to your brain that it's daytime. Long story short, this messes up your circadian system, which is very, very closely linked to your dopamine system. This actually leads to dopamine suppression, meaning that
I have such a bad addiction to my phone that I had to go to a rehabilitation center last year so someone could take my phone away from me and monitor me so that I wasn't on it 24/7. Like, to this day, I average around 13.8 hours of screen time a day, which means that if I sleep 8 hours a day, there's only like 3 hours in the entire day where I'm not holding my phone looking at it. I wish phone addiction was something that we could talk about more and normalize, because we see all these addictions of things, but then as soon as you talk about like having an addiction to social media or your phone, people are always like, just throw it in the drawer, like turn it off, like it's not a real addiction, like you're in control of yourself. And it's like, I'm actually not in control of myself, because whenever it gets late at night, I cannot put the phone down and stop scrolling. Like, whenever my friends are talking to me, I can't just not have my phone in my hand. Like, I'm not looking at it, but I'm just like, I'm holding it, you know what I mean? And like, even when I go outside and I'm walking down the street, I cannot have my phone in my purse. I have to literally hold it and scroll through something as I'm walking. And I've tried truly everything. I have turned my phone black and white so that the colors don't stimulate me. I've tried locking certain applications. I've tried throwing it in a drawer at night, but the problem is that I always end up breaking, and I always end up reverting it back or taking it out of the drawer. And the thing about phone addiction that no one talks about is that that it can completely ruin your life because you will find yourself canceling plans to stay at home and scroll. You will find yourself not able to consume media like books and TV because you need to have your phone in your hand scrolling. Like when it gets to that serious point, like it really does take over your life. Like you can't work anymore because as you're working, you're constantly distracted every 5 minutes by your phone. I feel like when it comes to phone addiction, I'm one of the worst cases that I've ever seen personally, but if you are struggling with this as well, can you please let me know what you did to help like fight this, because I don't know what to do anymore.
We're going to need to create a forum, and from there we're going to need to create help groups, because this is a real thing, and it's becoming evident and clear to me that this is a serious thing. Like people really have an addiction problem to their cell phone to the point to where it's affecting every aspect of their lives. So we need to start heading towards creating like a little safe space where people can go to, just like an addiction for alcohol, just like an addiction for drugs. People need somewhere to go to talk about their addiction to their cell phone.
Every time you're around your partner, it's, hey, let me see your phone. Like, I feel weird about something. Or leave your phone somewhere and your partner's looking through it. That's one of the things that tear somebody apart, because even though I have nothing to hide, even though I know I'm loyal, why are you trying so hard to look for something? You know, I know the trust thing is very hard, but at some point, what's right in front of you?
Yet again, another urgent warning was just issued to Litmatic, but basically if your orange dot is showing at the top of your screen while you're not using anything that will use your audio, it means someone is probably tapped into it. In this case, obviously your phone could possibly be hacked. To give you an example, right now I'm filming this video, so at the top of my phone I do see a green dot, but it's because I'm using it. If I was not using my camera and I saw a green dot, it means someone else is. Basically, the main thing to take from this whole entire warning is to just pay attention to your phone while you're not using any apps that would cause those dots to appear. So just make it a habit to constantly look up just to check. You never know. I give you these daily roundups every single day, so add me and come back to me tomorrow.
Your smartphone might be affecting your intelligence more than you think. A study of 520 students showed that the closer their mobile phone was to them, the worse they did on tests and the worse they learned. It's the division of attention. When they had it in their pockets or handbags, they did the worst. When it was across the room or in another room, they did best. And it has to do with the anterior cingulate gyrus and the frontal lobe. Even if we're not thinking about our smartphone, just hearing one ring or vibrate or thinking it might ring or vibrate decreases our cognitive ability.